Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are Pantheon Plus, and this is the MMO 101, where we play MMOs and then we grade MMOs. And tonight, we are doing some grading. And we are grading the granddaddy of them all, Everquest. It is going to be an exciting night. I've seen a little bit of a preview of some of the grades, and there is going to be some controversy tonight. I can say that with certain. So it's going to be super fun. Yeah. So does we have? Well, I'll just go around the room, introduce everybody since we don't have anybody's names this week. I'm Draq. I usually play wizards. We have Therek. He is the ranger and also the lore master of the group. We have the Nathan Napalm, full-time paladin and part-time dire lord. We have Stands in the Fire.
I'll take that.
You're on film, dude. You have to cop to it.
I'll take that.
He's just gathering evidence. That's all.
There's evidence already. All right, I'll go ahead and I'll take that.
There's Stands in the Fire. He's our resident healer and also calculus major. There is Sparoh. She is our Scar Ranger and also Summoner.
Oh, brutal. Fighting words.
There was venom on that dagger.
You keep saying it as long as you keep reacting like that.
And last but not least, we have Cryptfox, our in-house enchanter and also PvP master.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So we have our categories tonight. So the first category is grouping/rating, then questing, classes, spells and skills, player versus player, sound and graphics, cash top / monetization, lore immersion, and then the last one is addictibility / fun. And then we have an overall GPA. The overall GPA is not an average of the other grades. It is a separate grade that is just what am I going to give the game overall total. So that's
because there may be some factors that aren't in the individual subcategories sometimes.
Right.
And some of us may weight some of the categories more heavily than we weight others.
Right.
And sometimes the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, right? Sometimes everything put together, it makes a fun game, but the individual parts are kind of so on.
All the soft skills of the MMO.
That's actually the message I gave my wife to get her to marry me.
In totality, I'm better.
Look, individual
Some
pieces
of everything.
Are not very great. But when you put them all together, they form this really nice.
Well, my secret was marry my wife before she found out, so I locked her down like super quick.
Oh yeah, smart.
Like when you're dating, like, look, baby, if you really want to know me, play this MMO.
Right.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, let's dive into this thing. This is Everquest. This is a 22-year-old game, and it's gonna be super interesting. So we're gonna start with grouping / rating, and Therek, you are up first to bat.
Ooh, I get to go first. I'm so excited. I mean, out of all the categories, I think this is the one I had the most to say on. So EverQuest grouping is the heart and soul of what EQ is. And one of the early things we learned when we started playing in the first few weeks was that soloing in EQ is completely unfun, completely unfeasible, and just a nightmarish experience. I mean, once you get past level 5, it's just not. It's
Amen.
not a thing.
Amen.
Yes. Yeah. I know. Nathan in particular felt the sting on this one. I mean, and think about all the MMOs we've played, right? Like, Draq, you listed them off not that long ago. This is the first one where I was actively looking forward when we were trying to level between shows, because it meant I had to reach out and we had to get together and do things. And I'm going to get super wholesome on everybody here and say that this is the first MMO we've played where I felt in those moments we actually became better friends. Like, we actually, developed in terms of like just hanging out, not on stream, doing things together because we wanted to. I mean, we were doing it for the show, but we also wanted to. Why hasn't leveling in those other games we've played felt like that? Because I feel like in those other games it was a chore. It was something I was doing because I knew I wanted to, I wanted to do it for the show and I wanted us to. I had a goal. In EverQuest, I was doing it. There was more involved. So, I mean, I think that's what we're talking about. That's the whole reason we're into Pantheon, is because we want to get back to that. not only being rewarded for grouping, but punished for not grouping, because that's the balance that it has to strike. I mean, and it sounds harsh and people don't like that, but I think this modern design of staying away from punishing players for playing the game, not playing the game the way that it's intended is a problem. So one of the things that strikes me about EverQuest and grouping is that the game designers have sort of come to this belief that they can make games more fun than something that's so intrinsic to the human experience of hanging out together and being in a group and doing a social activity, like interacting and camaraderie and all those real things that go on. Games will never surpass that. You can't create a game that's more than that, because you can't beat human nature. It's just not what's happening. And there's a whole lot more I could say about this in terms of ranting and going on and turning this into some sort of essay. But when it comes to EverQuest, it's a simple game. It's a simple game, and less is more. Grouping in EverQuest is one of its prime things. And then Norath is like a world made for adventurers, not for lone wolves. Again, like we found out. It kills, it kills the stragglers, it kills the weak and the injured that are left behind and not participating in the group, and it laughs at you while it's doing that, and that's 100% the way it should be. I couldn't have survived without you guys when we were grouping and when we were playing this game, and you couldn't have survived without me, and that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So my final grade is, I've given some triple flaming F minuses. This gets a triple flaming A plus plus plus.
Whoa.
This is what EverQuest is. Yeah,
I'm not swinging.
Yeah, gotta come out harsh. Yeah.
I don't even think I have room for that. That's not going to fit.
How many pluses can we fit in one of these cells?
Come on, Draq.
Just fill up the whole thing with plus signs.
Therek's got to be difficult on the first one.
Nobody on the multicam stream, but he can't fit A plus plus into a box.
Nobody gives a triple unless it's flaming, etc.
It's got to be flaming.
It's got to be flaming.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's assumed.
I got the 3 pluses in there. I can't make it flaming now. So
nice.
All right,
You can color it red or something.
Mr. Nathan Napalm, you are up. Group
Yeah,
/ rating.
so I'm not going to repeat the things Therek said, because that was a lot of mine. Was like, this is what EverQuest is meant to be. This is where it's at its best. This is what they designed the game to be like. I enjoyed the downtime even. It's part of the strategic part of the gameplay is like, there needs to be downtime, and when is that going to be? And when you go out and pull, anything could happen. You could get more than you bargained for, and so you got to kind of always keep that in mind. Like, I could pull right now, but I'm taking a risk because, the healer and the enchanter doesn't have mana for a big pull, or else we're all going to die. And there's just all this strategy that comes with even the downtime itself. So the parts of EverQuest grouping that people don't generally like, or talked about, at least back during that era, as being a problem that MMOs needed to fix, we have since learned that we were wrong, and those things could have been tweaked, right? They could have been tweaked, but they need to be there. And we didn't know that. And I remember during that time, I was like, yeah, if we just get rid of the downtime, MMOs would be like so good, And then they did get rid of downtime, and it sucked, and it was awful, and nobody talked anymore. And
we got dailies. Downtime with dailies.
And we got
I hate
dailies and less online, and everything got pretty nasty. And you have time to get to know your group, and you have time to laugh and just talk about stuff, and it almost incentivizes that. And so I think it's best said that EverQuest is the best game ever to play with your friends. Worst game ever to play without your friends or to play on your own. Now, there are advantages, and we'll get to that. That's another topic, but I give it an A+. I think there are issues, and it could be tightened up, and I think those are things Pantheon's doing. Finally, after 23 years, Pantheon was finally tightening up the actual issues that I would say that are there, and that's the only reason I would give it AAA is, there are some things that could be tightened up and make it absolutely perfect, in my opinion. But for today, it's the best we got.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, this is the one we've been waiting for. Stands in the fire. Let's hear it. Grouping / rating EverQuest.
I've been
Hold
trying
on,
to
let me grab
figure
my
out.
snack.
I've been trying to figure out, going by the graphic, like what order you were going in, and it's random order. Awesome. So I'm going to preface this by saying that most of the people here have played EverQuest in some form or fashion or another. I mean, Crypt played EQOA at least before we did this. This was my first time actually properly playing EverQuest. I played EverQuest 2, ain't the same game. So I'm coming into this with zero nostalgia. I have no memories from a that taint playing this game in 2022 and being objective. I'm going to be objective and critical. You know. So Bounty and, all you old heads, just go ahead and as soon as Draq says, okay, Stans, and what about you? Just start typing an angry comment in chat and leave the subject blank and fill it in like Mad Lib style.
Turn the caps on.
With eggs. So
Well, I mean, they got a lot of standard responses already typed up, Stan. So just pick
I mean,
those
yeah,
up.
just insert response here. So just, bear that in mind. I'm coming into this with zero nostalgia for this game. Grain of salt. Grouping or rating. It's a damn good thing that EverQuest has its grouping mechanics, pretty well together, because it's the only thing you can do to actually make progress in the game. You have to group, so it's a good thing that it works well. Like Therek was saying, we had a blast playing off stream and on stream as a group, and actually getting a measured amount of downtime and the ability to talk between pulls, not hectic paced. The contrast to that is I pugged a lot to level just because I tend to play at weird times. Not quite as weird as Nathan, but I did a lot of my leveling at weird pug times. And the reputation that EverQuest has for everybody in groups is social, and people talk. Draq, what's my profanity budget for this episode?
We've already ran the timeless warning, so you're good to go. Do what you need to do.
All right, because that is utter and complete bullshit. Again, I had more conversations in party chat with people I don't know in Final Fantasy, in Lotro, and other games. Hell, going back to WoW, going back to any other MMO. It might have been the thing back in the day. It is not the way people play EverQuest now, because most of them are doing probably a lot like what we did, hanging out in their own Discords. So I'm going to give EverQuest a B-. Grouping is really solid, but it sang when you were in a group with people you were already going to be playing with. As a pug, I might as well have been playing with NPCs.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. There is an element of the game's been out for 23 years. Everybody kind of knows what they need to do, when they need to do it. So they don't necessarily communicate as much as they did back in the day. There is definitely that element to it.
I got to tell the truth here. I haven't had the pug in EverQuest since years ago, right? Because I just, I'm playing with somebody, right? And I didn't, and I've heard people complain about it, and hey, I tried to get in this game, but blah blah blah, and I just didn't understand them because it had been so long, and I tell you what, now I do understand. Now I get it, because I had to pug, and it's a different game when you have to pug.
I got into a group one time when you guys weren't around or whatever, and we got into the Unrest basement, and it was hilarious. I had a great time. I mean, there was drama in the 20 minutes I was in there. It was not major, but it was minor drama where somebody went AFK and then didn't tell anybody, and so we just kicked him out of the group, and it was hilarious. I mean, the kind of stuff, even if you're not like, you're not chatting about, what's going on and the latest news or whatever, even if it's just mindless, gamer chatter about nothing at all, I still find that very entertaining.
None of my
I was
pugs
entertained.
none of my pugs had even that, and I
Yeah.
pugged a lot. I
Yeah,
had some very effective pugs,
Yeah.
but the entirety of the conversation was, we're about to lose somebody. Does anybody have a replacement?
Right.
Yeah,
I am pulling X mob.
fair enough.
Or a question, like, hey, you guys want to move down, try this camp spot,
Right.
It is true. It is true. And it has a lot to do with like when I pugged with Crypt or with Stans, like we were in our own Discord and we were talking,
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, a lot, and that is a lot of it now. All right, is that it? That's
Yeah,
perfect. I don't want to cut
What
you
was
off.
the score? What was the score?
B
B
minus.
minus.
B minus, not bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
not bad. Cryptfox.
Very, very, very bottom of B, but I wasn't going to drop it down to. I wasn't going to drop it down to a C because it was solid.
Right.
Me. Okay. I agree with a lot of what Stan said. My experience has been a little bit different. Um, what I think about grouping, because we didn't really raid, is that grouping very effective because you have to. But I wanna look at grouping almost as like a photograph and take the photo negative, right? The flip side of the grouping, which is the solo ability, is non-existent, right? And something for me is that in order for me to appreciate grouping, I need to feel like I can do some stuff on my own, but realize autonomously that this isn't effective enough, and then want to go get a group. I didn't even try to solo just because it was, coming from everywhere. Like, you need to group. There's no other way to do it. You need to group. So I gave grouping a B minus. Um, my experience in group with people that I knew, absolute blast. I would give it an A plus, right? Uh, in pugs, I think it leans more towards that B minus. People talked less, and just putting it in perspective of the timeliness of EQ is that back when we all originally played a version of EQ, whether it's EQ, EQA, whatnot, we didn't have voice comms. We had a keyboard. That was it. So when I got into like an unrest group in the basement, yeah, there was some talking, uh, but people were mostly focused on playing the game. Uh, but yeah, I think a B minus is a fair grade for this game. I wish that there was some, give left or right from the grouping, just so you can appreciate the grouping more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Sometimes it's one of those things where you don't know. There's no good without bad. There's no dark without light, right? Like if soloing is non-existent, you don't know how great grouping is. I mean, if there was a little tiny bit of solo ability, and to be fair, there is with
There
the
is.
right class, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
so you could say that, if you really, really want to solo, you just have to know the classes a little bit more.
And
Um,
interestingly enough, Crypt, you were actually playing one of the classes that can solo.
Yeah, with your
Yeah.
pet. Mhm.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
was
but
brainwashed by the rest of the 101. Like, you can't solo.
Don't do it!
Don't you dare!
dare!
No, you totally can.
oh, two, there's also this sense of responsibility for EverQuest old school players that if somebody's playing EverQuest for the first time, we want you to have a good time. Like
Yeah.
we don't want you to come in and be like, I hated it. Like that would hurt our feelings, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So like
totally.
deeply would hurt our feelings. So the warnings we were flashing was because we were just worried that you would attack EverQuest in a way that we knew would be less likely that you would have a good time.
Plus,
Yeah.
soloing in EverQuest is extremely punishing.
Yeah.
Because of the way you die, you lose experience, like, and you have to run back. There's no res, like it's brutal. And so unless you're like
Yeah.
100% locked in on your mechanics and how you need to do stuff, it's pretty brutal.
Well,
And
yeah. I
it's
mean,
not
I,
experimental, and I think we've all come accustomed to like experimenting with things when we play an MMO. Like, well, let me just see what happens here. If you do that in EverQuest, you're gonna die. You know, like
yeah.
I remember I was like a Basilisk. For some reason, that's bad. I was like, that's probably a long time ago. It'll be fine. Yeah, it was horrible. Horrible experience. You know, and
That
I was
first
like,
night, I remember
and
that.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh yes, now I remember why. Now I remember.
Perma-stunned
Well,
paladin.
although I fully appreciate everybody wanted me to, you guys wanted to like massage me into a really good EverQuest experience. I feel like I missed not, this isn't a dig at all, it's just a critique. Like, I
Sure.
felt like I missed a little bit of autonomy in figuring things out for myself by playing EQ, by not attempting to solo. And figuring out, oh, I do lose levels. Oh, if I die, I do have to run back for 20 minutes. Those things I really needed to figure out for myself. But I ended up figuring those things out eventually because I did die and I had to run back, and it was like the most painstaking thing that I just do not enjoy. Please don't make me run anymore. Uh, but yeah, I think B minus is a pretty fair grade
No, I
for
think it's
grouping and
good.
EQ.
All right, Sparoh.
All right, so this for me was a breath of fresh air that there was actually group content to be had, and we didn't have to try and level to get to the group content. Even my most favorite games that I play, like ESO and Lord of the Rings Online, it feels like this constant, hey, let's get to this level so we can actually do something as a group. This always has group content no matter what level you are. It could be overland, it could be in dungeons. So for me, that's where the higher part of the grade comes. It can be challenging to find a group, and I think EQ is perfect for a static group or a guild that is happy to play with whoever's in the guild. But I could see Nathan's frustration trying to, as a paladin, solo. That would be horrible.
The
Now
absolute worst class to solo.
yeah, that would be horrible trying to do that. When I
Maybe
played
Warrior
back,
would be worse. Sorry, go ahead.
maybe, yeah. When I played back in the day, I played a druid with Bounty Code who played a wizard, and we could solo, duo, whatever we wanted, even back in the day. So we didn't do dungeons and things, but anything overland we seemed to do pretty good. We would quad kite, and so there was definitely ways to solo. So I didn't find that as frustrating. And I played a magician this time around, again, very capable of soloing anything blue or even cons. So for me, I'm giving it an A. It doesn't get a lot of the negativity for me from my experience, maybe because I played the magician this time and a druid before. And I love it as a static group. It's a perfect game to group in.
Yeah, it's a good point. I like the point about not waiting to find the group content. It's right there when
It's
you start.
always there.
I
Yeah.
hate
Because there
that
is nothing
so much.
other than that.
Yeah, you
I
can
know.
you can
But
group at
that's,
level
see, I
1.
don't think so.
Yeah.
There
It's
is
a real
plenty
thing.
of solo. If you're feeling adventurous and wanting to try a class that isn't so difficult to solo, there are plenty, like Necro, like Druid, like Enchanter. All of those are very capable of soloing.
Yeah, and
And they
that's the
take
thing, though, is
skill.
that you do have to basically roll one of the classes. You have to, if you're playing something else in a group, you have to have your entirely own, separate character that is capable of doing those things.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. If
If
you
you're
want
if
a
you're Nathan or
character,
I, you're host.
yes. Healers
But
can pretty much always find a group.
You also,
anyway.
yes, exactly what she
No,
just said.
Yeah.
I spent so much time in channels looking for anybody looking for a healer at my level.
Mm.
Right.
And like half an hour of spamming various zone chats and OOC and locals and class chats. Like, no. Half
Well,
an
you see,
hour of
it could have
not
been
playing is not playing.
it could have been the method of attack that you were doing. You were like going in the chat, and I was using slash
Oh,
LFG.
I was
No.
slash LFG the whole
Oh,
time
you were
too.
too?
Our biggest problem is the TLP system as it sits, right? So 90% of all the people that play these TLPs are max level within the first 2 to 3 weeks of playing the TLP, right? And so it's not like back in the day where, 3 or 4 weeks in, or 3-4 months in, you still have people leveling up. It's not like that. All those people are max level. So you're not actually grouping with their mains. You're grouping with their second altar, their third altar, their fourth, and if you noticed on a lot of those groups, the people we pugged with, they had crazy gear because their mains had collected this gear or whatever, and they were passing it down to the
Or they
squads.
had their mains with them.
Or their mains were with them,
Yes,
sitting there, yes. We ran Sparoh, and Stans and I ran, was it Stans? The guy in Unrest, and he was mad because he wanted all the mobs for his one character that he
just
was
for
power
him.
leveling.
They're all mine. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and someone in chat said something that I feel like super true in all group-based MMOs, which is that people want to be in a group, they just don't want to start the group, right?
That is a great point.
I've always found that if I just start the group and I just start adding people, that you will get a full group. So yeah, I think that's a major problem that we're going to see in Pantheon as well, and that's why I feel like all the veterans just start the groups yourself, right? Like, just do it.
And I've made a lot of hay.
You have to find a second person who will say, "Yeah, sure, I'm available."
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always a solution, but it's a better. I feel like it's more likely. And I also feel like that what Draq said earlier. If we weren't playing with, I feel like Draq kind of did say this, but if you weren't playing with someone with just their alt at this point, this late into TLP that we were playing and at our levels, then you were playing with the poop sock rejects. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Here's what I was gonna say of that. It might dip a little bit into the classes, but I'm not gonna go too far into it. But I think because of how classes were designed in EQ, they do one thing very, very well. Healers heal, CC, etc., and so forth. So when you have a ton of DPS trying to get a group, it's hard, right?
Yep, it's definitely is a factor. Yep.
And so the design of classes over time has migrated away from the singularity of doing one thing to kind of like spread it out. That way you can provide more benefits to the group rather than just crowd control.
Yeah.
Right? You could do some damage too. You might be able to provide like, a very light heal over time, whatever the case may be. I think that's kind of how classes have evolved over time.
But you got to be super careful with that though, because then you get rid of my favorite thing about MMOs, which is class identity. And if all the classes can do all the stuff, then I'm just bored with the game. Period. Like, I hate.
Not any one class can do everything.
Are you lockstepping class identity with role identity? Because those are two distinct concepts that sometimes are paired.
Right.
Don't inherently have to be.
Yeah, I feel like every class should suck at something. I mean, they should be just god awful at something, or maybe a couple of things even.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you have a class, you have your main role, which for me in this case, CC. I should be able to provide enough damage to also compete on the damage, but not more so than a class that is only damage, right? Uh, have like your left foot in your main role, but also have your pinky toe in another bucket. So you're not just like, all right, are you a CC or
And I think that's what Pantheon's attempting with flex roles.
Right. So a little bit of flexing.
Kind of going.
All right, we have got to move on. We are half an hour into this thing, and we're not even done with the one, which I knew wasn't going to happen. But I don't want to cut it short on the end. So we got to go. For me, Everybody's chimed in about all the good things and the bad things. I would just want to chime in a bit on the rating, because I did serious rating on the Eridune server as a competitive raider. I did 3 nights a week. I did the full DKP. I did like the whole shebang, and it is a lot of fun to do the rating in EverQuest. If you're into it and you have the time for it and you could do the commitment of it, it is a total blast. And being able to get in on that and do on the TLPs on the progression servers and get in on the rating it's just it's a lot of fun. The organization of it, I really like the getting that many people, the large raids. I mean, you can get huge, up to 72 people in your own instance on those TLPs. You can make raids out of, and so you don't have this sense of like leaving people out. It's not locked to 12 people. It's not locked to 20 people. You can make them huge, so you can bring new people along. You can teach people. I've done raids in EverQuest 22 years later that I never did back in the day, and so it's been a super fun experience for me to do the rating. And of course, the grouping for me, it is the absolute gold standard for what I think an MMO should be, right? It encourages grouping. As others have said, if you play the right class, you can solo, but even still, it's not that great. So I give it an A+. Oops. Except I didn't actually change it to an A+, so we'll do that now.
A C. The real grade is revealed.
The real grade is revealed. All right, so now we have to take a little bit less time, and we're going to do questing. Therek.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we might all say the same thing here. For a game called EverQuest, there are not a lot of quests. This game maybe I think should have been called Epic Quest, because those are really the ones that I remember.
That's good.
Honestly, I don't. There are some low level ones, but who cares, right? Nobody does those quests with any seriousness. The question is that good or bad? And it might surprise you guys, but I think EQ's questing is kind of what it should be. It's kind of a sideshow. It's like a secondary system, and I guess maybe that's only in comparison to how primary questing is in modern MMOs. I really want to try and play an MMO without questing at all, like a modern MMO, and see how that goes, because I actually don't think it can be done. But the way high level questing is treated in EverQuest, I think is really good. It's a reward for putting all the hard work in to get your character to that level. So you do your epics, you do your the Coldane shawl quest, stuff like that. Where it's sorry, Vero, I know, trauma. But they give you notoriety, they give you status, those big high level quests, and that's what quests should be. So I think that EverQuest knew what it was when they were making it. They knew it was about killing monsters. It's about grouping up. It's about looting stuff. Questing is simple. It's thin. It's for the most part. Again, a lot of this commentary tonight for me comes from the perspective of 1999, but when I played it in the olden days, not from when we played here. But there is some of that mixed in too. I think it can be done better. I think Perception and Pantheon is shaping up to be what it's going to land somewhere between what EverQuest does and the overabundance of, exclamation marks in modern MMOs. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm looking for. So overall, my grade for questing in EverQuest is a B.
Okay. Nathan?
Yeah, so, one thing I really appreciate about EverQuest is no hand-holding with the questing at all, right? Not who has the quest, not where to go to get what you need to fulfill the quest. And I'll say this, to be honest, my memory wouldn't be this acute on it if I wasn't also playing P99, where no matter where we go, no matter what we're killing, there's a quest somehow linked with everything in the world, right? And somebody knows about it, right? And I think with TLP, those are a little bit lower because we were grouping; it just wasn't necessary. And a lot of times in EverQuest back in the day, you would kill mobs that didn't give as good of XP because you were actually going to get more XP because you were collecting something that you could turn in for either really good gear or for really good XP sometimes, right? Or plat or whatever the case may be, whatever you were after. And I feel like that when I played EverQuest back in the day, I made my own quest, right? And I feel like that's where the EverQuest came from. It wasn't, there's tons of quests for me to do. I honestly only did them when people told me about them. Like, hey, man, don't throw away those bone chips,
Yeah.
What I thought of it back in the day was that, like, I made my own quest. So, for example, way back in the day when I first played EverQuest, I just wanted which God help my soul for even thinking this. I just wanted to go to Lower Guck. It sounded like a really cool dungeon, and it is. Just a little sick of it now, but that's all I wanted, right? I was like, man, that's where the cool kids are. It's like high level 30s and 40s, man. That's the high levels going down to Lower Guck, and who knows what they're seeing down there. And there's all these stories coming out of there, and they're getting all this loot and gear and stuff, and that's all I wanted to do. And that was my quest, was like, I want to get to Lower Guck, So that's how I feel about it. I do like it. I love the no hand holding, and I love that you just go out in the world and you find them. And in a way, the questing has aged like fine wine because so many people know everything, right? There's so many people that you're like, hey, we're going here tonight. And people just start in chat like, oh, you can do this. Oh, there's this one rare mob that maybe be there over in this corner. There's, you want to collect these for the quest. There's this, there's that. And it's like, it doesn't matter where you go. We didn't get that in TLP, but I do see it in P99. So I know it's there. It's just not as needed anymore. There's not hell levels. There's not this and that.
Right.
So that's how I feel. So I gave it, there are problems. It's not a quest game, all right? It's just not, unless you make your own, like I said. So I gave it a B, because I think they're all there. There's plenty of those to do, but you don't really have to worry about them so much anymore.
You want the know-it-all people. We have Lurchmouse and Zelik on Monday night, and they know all the stuff. Another problem with the TLPs is because people were so efficient at doing those low-level collection quests that the TLPs make them worth no experience anymore. So they're still there. You don't turn them in for experience because people figured out, oh, well, I can go and I can buy 500 Lego pads in Crushbone, and I can turn them in, and my level 1 character is poof level 25.
Right.
And so they've over the years, those low level quests have been abused, and so that's why they've disabled them.
Like the mail.
Yeah, the
Delivering
mail. Oh my goodness, Diabolus and I single-handedly disabled the mail quest on the Thornblade TLP launch. The GM came on and killed the mail person, and we were no longer allowed to do it. Dan's quests.
All right, all y'all start typing in chat right now.
Oh my goodness, here we go.
Pitchforks.
So, I actually checked my /played before I uninstalled EverQuest, and ended up
already
playing.
uninstalled it.
Yeah, installed it.
Ended up
I don't
playing
have the heart.
ended up playing this character for 49 hours.
Yeah.
And as far as quests go, I gave a letter to my guildmaster right at the beginning, and I handed in some bone chips and immediately learned that there is no point in handing in bone chips. Beyond that, as a group, we went to places where there were groups of mobs which would magically replenish themselves at a mathematically appropriate rate for the characters that we were taking in there. Have your formula, know your group, find the right spawn rate. We basically just murder simmed the entire time. That's what we did. That's not questing. This was an F. I am sure that people who played this game differently 20 years ago had a vastly different experience. In 2022, on the TLP, in the groups that we played, for the time we played, no, this was atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Seeing
I
it
have to agree
today,
with that,
seeing it today, and this is your
Yeah.
perception of it. I gotta agree.
I think I would feel the same way, 100%.
Yeah,
Right.
My wife did. She was appalled, right?
Yeah.
When I first brought her to EverQuest, and we were playing for a while, and I think we were like level 5 or 6, and she was like, "All right, when do we start doing the quests?" And I was like, "Well, that's the thing. We don't."
It is not the focus or the hook of this game. But if we're looking at quests, no.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to launch the flaming, and the only reason I didn't is because I know that it was never intended to be that focus.
Mm-hmm.
been invented yet in the way that it is today.
Right.
Well, I mean, single player RPGs absolutely had that thing, and that these people played the single player Ultima. I mean, look at games that came
That's a
out
good
just a
point.
couple. Look at games that came out just a couple years before this, or even were contemporaries. The early Infinity Engine games, several of them were already out at this point.
It's a good point. I feel like though that what they were trying to do was simulate D&D, not RPGs.
They were trying.
so-
They were trying to simulate a certain style of play of D&D.
You
But
get quests in
absolutely.
D&D.
And yeah, that's the thing. They were trying to emulate a way that a certain style of table played D&D at
Right.
that time.
But it's more like, as Nathan said, it's more like you go on a quest. Like, okay, I'm going to get my group together and we're going to go on a quest. We're going to go to Blackbarrel. That is a quest, right?
Yeah.
Not
I
like
think back then, we're like
Self-imposed.
Yeah.
leaving. It was like back then. It was like leaving Kinos.
yeah, that was a
and
quest.
going. That was a quest. It was just like it was scary as crap. You may never get your body back. You may
Yeah.
lose everything.
Yeah,
It was like
it's-
so
it's-
scary.
Self-direction murder simulator as a quest.
That's
Yeah.
great.
That stands as future MMO.
All right. We got to
Murder
keep going.
simulator.
Cryptfox, pile it on.
I mean, I don't want to repeat everything that Stan said, so we can just clip that, rewind that, and put my face on his body, and that would be the things that I was going to say. But I'll just say something original and say, quests.
What quests?
What quests?
I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
ever find
There's
one.
quests in EverQuest.
I know, right?
If you're gonna have quest in the name, you need to have quests in the game. I say. I gave it an F minus.
Ooh.
Not surprised.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I have
Makes
yeah,
sense.
I have
actually.
to speak on my experience with
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
my experience was on the TLP, and there was no quests.
Fair enough. I mean, that's how we played the game with you guys. We did not bring you out to show you the quests that are actually in the game.
Mhm.
Right. Well,
And even if we would have, it would have been silly too.
yeah, it would
To be honest,
On the
Yeah.
TLP, yeah.
on the TLP, yeah.
You have to get 2 or 3 expansions in, honestly, before the quests actually get decent anyway. There's maybe 1 or 2 quests that are worth doing in the original.
I
The
mean,
Paladin
alright,
Epic being the biggest one.
Yeah.
just to expound on my score just a little bit more. So we grouped, right? That was our quest, right? That's our self-imposed quest. We get together, we go do something. We still got quest items that were dropping that didn't trigger a quest. I didn't know where to go, what to do with it. There
Yeah.
was no quests.
Yeah, but if you think of it like this, if you think of it the way they originally designed it, where it's like just going to do thing is a quest, right? Like that's you made your own quest. We did have some adventures, right? We had adventures of trying to get together, of trying to get to the places, of people getting attacked and killed, and then we'd all have to come and help, and so that
Somebody got killed by a brownie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Who's
I don't
that?
think quests as a metaphor in 2022 is gonna work.
Sure, no, it's not. But 1999, it totally did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back then,
I
yeah.
think that's where you get the gulf in perspectives here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Agreed.
Sparoh, quest.
So I have to go for my whole experience and not just TLPs because we're talking about EverQuest as a whole. So I actually really like the style of EverQuest questing, that it's not hubs, that there's room for discovery. If we hadn't been solely focused on leveling so we could get to this place to show this on stream to get to this dungeon, you would be able to take a breath, experience the game, find out there's actually a lot of quests if you talk to different NPCs and had time to just kind of explore the environment of EverQuest. We kind of only saw the one like level kind of move along experience, but there is another discovery experience that I really like about EverQuest. When Bounty Code brought me in 2002 to play it, whether it was worth it or not, he brought me through like armor quests for your brand new character when you first start, and you get all this new cool druid gear just from doing quests in the city. There are hand-in quests and the mail quests and things like that are in the game now. I don't know if it's in TLP or not.
No, it's not. Those armor
yeah.
quests were later.
Yeah, I mean, I started 2002 and did them.
Yeah.
So
They were 2 or 3 expansions in before they put those
Yeah.
in.
And I love that the quests aren't super apparent. They're not in hubs and things like that, that it's definitely open to that exploration and talking to people. So where it loses marks for me is that it's not always clear even how to complete the quests, because like Nathan said, there isn't any hand holding. You had, back in the day too, you had to figure out what to say to them to even get them to give you a quest. You had to do the
That's
right
true.
comment.
Mhm.
So I didn't care for that. But I do like that Pantheon is leaning, as Nathan said, that perception system kind of feeds into that same idea of, what if I talk to this person? Will they give me a quest? Or so for me, it gets a B. B for questing.
Well, and Sparoh left out too. If you don't give the exact right items, or you don't give them in the right order, sometimes it will just flat out eat your quest items.
Yes. They don't do that anymore, but they did. You'd lose it.
Or
Yeah.
if someone else gives the vendor or your quest person an item while you're giving a quest person their item, it could also screw the whole thing up too. So it's dicey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to defend one thing. So Draq was kind of the host of where we were going and, you know, what we were going to do. I just want to defend him just a little bit this one time. So Bounty was a better host to Sparoh when he took her into EverQuest.
Right.
But I will say in Draq's defense that he wasn't trying to marry Crypt or
No, we were married already.
Oh.
I'm not into polygamy.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
my
should see some of
goodness.
the DMs I get from Draq.
Oh boy.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Oh.
Or maybe I'm wrong. Hey.
That's a different show. You have to pay extra for that one.
Yeah, he wooed me. He wooed me with EverQuest because we were already married when he introduced me to it.
Bonnie was like, "Hey, Sparoh, check out this epic weapon I just had dropped."
All right, we got to keep moving. Questing, there's parts of EverQuest questing that I like. I like the not quest hubs, as Sparoh said. I like the epic quests. The epic quests are so much fun. And the months that it took to complete the epic quests. I like quests that take a long time with a big payout at the end. Those are meaningful and those stick with me. And I still remember when I got my first epic weapon, and I'm like, that will stay with me forever. And so that piece of it I really like. But as everyone else has said, there was a lot lost in translation, and I think, as Nathan said, they didn't really know what they were doing at the beginning. It got better as it went along. So I'm going to give it a B plus for things like the Coldane Shawl, the Epic Quest, the Big Quest. Those were just really, really well designed quests that were really fun to do. But the other stuff it's not that good. And honestly, EverQuest Classic, or even the first 3 expansions, it's really not built around questing. I mean, even though the name is named EverQuest, the questing is such that you go on a quest with your friends, not I complete quests that NPCs give me.
Can I say just one thing though?
Agreed.
Like my first experience with any EverQuest brand was EQOA, and I realized that I played on the TLP and it didn't have any quests, but I know EverQuest has quests,
Yeah.
right? Because I played EQOA, and in EQOA you had very, very detailed and nice quests, and I loved them. But I didn't experience a quest, so I had no basic comparison.
And again, those quests were in classic EverQuest, but on the TLPs, many of the ones that we would do were disabled because, like, for instance, Crushbone, all those belts and all those shoulder pads were a quest that you turn in the dwarf city of Kaladin, and you get experience and you get a piece of gear, but people figured out how to abuse it, so they just disabled it completely. So there's no real
Oh, I
point.
know. I looked that up and went and tried to do it.
Yeah. There's no real
The
point.
NPC just went,
Yeah.
fuck off.
Yeah, they just nuked it because it's like, no, we're not going to allow you to do that because you're abusing it. So they just kind of,
Yeah, but I definitely know exactly what you're talking about. When you have like a really long epic quest, I had one like that in EQOA, and it took me like 3 weeks to complete because I had to do parts of it solo that were very, very hard. I had to do parts with like 20 or 30 people. For me, just one person, I had to pull 20 or 30 people together to
Yep.
complete it, and I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love that difficulty and
Right.
that sense of achievement.
And it also really, that was the foundation of guilds at the time, right? Everybody came together to help so and so do his quest, and then so and so came together when it was time to do your epic quest, right? Everybody came
Yeah.
together to help everybody else out, and it really built this sense of like community and guilds. Because you remembered every single person that was there when you got your epic weapon, and every single person that helped you do it,
Mm.
because it was important. It was huge.
We
All
got
right,
timekeeper Essen in chat
we
saying
got
that
to
we got
keep
an
going.
hour left for like 8 categories.
Oh my
All
god.
right.
Essen is just as guilty of it as we
Yeah,
are.
I was
So
gonna say yes.
Oh yeah.
We do need to have a timer. Yeah, we do. We really do.
okay.
All right,
So we're doing
Therek,
classes.
classes.
Yeah, classes, spells, skills. So basically, my what I want to say about this is that EQ is like the framework. I think when it comes to how you do this, they leave so much meat on the bone, and then this is a modern game can go so far with this, and that's what Pantheon's doing. It's so simple. EverQuest is so simple when it comes to the class stuff, but it's still satisfying. And I think over the course of the last however many weeks, we realized how much we needed each other in group. Without Stan's healing, without Nathan tanking, with all the things we did, we would have been dead, and we couldn't proceed without that. They mattered, and it wasn't just because it felt good in our hands. It was mattered because we were desired for our class and our abilities and that kind of stuff. And so I think about modern MMOs, and I'm like, what do people want? What's a better feeling to be able to play the class that can sort of do everything because it feels good to sort of be able to do things, or does it feel better to be needed, right? I think people have forgotten how good it feels to be needed and wanted on for a very specific thing. It's not just about the end game where in modern MMOs that's where you really lean into this stuff. EverQuest does it early on, and I love that about it. So if you didn't embrace your role, you don't play this game. Maybe people, when you're worried about appealing to a really large player base, a game like EverQuest makes all the wrong moves, right? It doesn't give you everything. It doesn't give people what they want on an all around basis. But I don't think that's as appealing to people as it's sort of become assumed to be. Anyway, long story short, class identity is strong. It's got a really strong foundation and philosophical basis for class identity and the skills and all the stuff that goes into that. So if you did that well and you made it modern, you might just have the next big MMO in your hands. So I don't know, man.
Agree.
Yeah,
That's good.
B plus, hardcore B plus.
All right, Mr. Nathan.
Yeah. All I got to say that Therek didn't already say much better than I would have is that to me, EverQuest, and I'm going to say, I always end up going back to this. It feels like they really did try to say, let's take D&D without getting sued and make it an MMO. It really 100% feels like that. So the Paladin works exactly how I'd expect a Paladin to work. Now, not D&D 5th edition, because that wasn't invented yet, but AD&D, which was prevalent at that time. It just feels exactly like I would expect that to be. And I haven't experimented very much in EverQuest with classes, right? I've been a paladin, I've been a warrior, and that's it. And the warrior's new to me, even though it's just a paladin without spells. But I like it. I love the class identity. That's what makes me fall in love with MMOs, is saying, I have a purpose, I have something that's needed, and I know how to do that thing, right? It doesn't have to be so complicated, right? Like sometimes MMOs have good class identity, but then they make it so complicated that you're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I have no idea how to do it,
That's it.
because they overcomplicate. It's like it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? I love, by the way, and I know nobody else that's ever in my party loves this except for me, but I love that the Paladin's given an ability called Flash of Light.
Oh,
It really is, it's like this really good snap aggro, right? But if you time it wrong, this is what people who haven't played Paladin don't understand. If you time it wrong, because people are like, just stand close to it and it won't happen. Dude, that's just not how EverQuest works, because you could lose aggro in that second that you casted it, right? And it just switches for a second to Crypt, let's say, or Sparoh, and then it begins moving. And guess what? It's gonna run now at 98% health. There it goes. But it's such good snap aggro that it's too tempting. You know, you're just like, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna do it. You know,
I'm gonna use it.
it's a bargain, man. You're taking a chance, and I just love it. I love the class. Now, here's my only complaint, and then I'll move on. I do still feel like that in 2022, it is a little bit not enough things to do. And I'm only speaking from Paladin and or Warrior. I can't talk for the others, right? But there's, if I just had a little bit more things to do. For in-betweeners, it doesn't have to be mandatory. Like, you got to do these combos. Like, I'm not talking about that. I just mean just a couple more little in-betweener things I can do every now and then. So that's the only reason I give it a B.
The Warriors and Rogues are a little dry.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I know. So,
Mr. Stans.
All right, so I played the cleric in our group, and Nathan had a really good point, which is you can clearly tell that they were basing the classes and a lot of their construction off of D&D as it was frequently played at a certain point in time. For cleric, they took the absolute worst of the way that people were told to play clerics at the time, which is shut up and heal me, and if I don't need healing, you don't exist. It is the stereotypical, and it unfortunately was the way a lot of tables played at the time, of you are here to heal if somebody needs it, and if not, you do not exist. My job in the group, my most effective gameplay on the cleric was to not play the game. The more time I spent not playing the game, the better off I was, because my job was to sit. My job was to sit as much as humanly possible, and that was the most effective gameplay.
Bring out your book.
Basically, yeah. And Crypt actually, in one of the early streams, made a really good observation that the people who were the old-time EverQuest players went straight past in a different direction when responding to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't feel like I am involved in playing this game. And I know that, you know, for the Enchanter, that picked up as it went on. To an
Nathan got
extent.
more bold, I think. He was like, oh, we got an Enchanter who's not doing anything. I'm going to pull
Nathan
more
got
stuff.
But there is a difference between fulfilling a needed role and being engaged.
Yeah.
I spent as much of my time doing nothing. Cleric was a D minus. It was the most bare bones functional. Have some heal spells and sit as much as you possibly can.
I remember clerics back in the day would be like telling 15 different people. You know, they would that was the people it seemed like played clerics. They would be sending tells to like 15 different people, several conversations going at the same time, and also popping up for heals when
or they were the boss of the group. They were the person that was telling everyone what to do. And if no one listened to them, they'd leave. Like mid-fight.
Yeah.
Nobody should be that person. But it absolutely, the most effective tactic was meerkat gameplay. Yeah. Pop up, do one thing, sit back down and wait.
And buffs, yeah, somebody in chat, yeah. Like, hey.
Gulo in chat said Stans is mad because he had to sit. Stans doesn't like sitting.
Nobody puts stands in a corner.
Nobody makes Stans sit.
Sits in the fire is not a thing.
Sits in the fire is no good. All right, Cryptfox.
Hold on, let me stop my music on the background. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I think we need to switch positions. Stans keep talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
stuff that I talk about.
Because you both
So,
came into this first time, so
yeah.
makes sense.
Well, yeah, like early on in one of the streams, I really felt that this game is engaging enough. And I think in order for people to really understand what Stans and I are talking about, you need to disassociate the class from the role that you're filling in the group, and then you'll see what we're talking about. As an enchanter, uh, I felt like I was filling a role, and I wasn't necessarily playing a class.
Mm.
I had one job. And like the way that the classes are designed, they're designed very well. They have like a list of things that people have to account for when grouping, and they designed the classes to satisfy those needs in order to manage the enemies that are coming to the group. An enchanter was to stop the enemies from doing things, and it does that very well. And I think it lays the groundwork for other variations of enchanter, um, or mesmer, or mentalist, or anything. It's the bones of the class that got carried forward through all the other MMOs going forward.
You can
Um,
see the EQ enchanter in so many other games
yes, you
classes.
can, and it was absolutely needed for them to define or give a skeletal structure to what the class should be. And then as time progressed, people started tacking on, well, the enchanter should probably also be able to do this and this and this. So like the enchanter. I didn't feel engaged always. I felt like if I did more than just mez, then I was running out of mana way too much, even with clarity. And just to put it in like a comparison perspective, I also played Necro on Thornblade, and I only played that to about like 10 or 12. And what level did we get to on these characters? Like 30, 32?
30 to 32, I think, was
Yeah,
our
somewhere
range.
in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that level 10 Necro felt way more polished of a class at level 10 than this enchanter did at 30 for me. And why I say that is because I could play that necro any way I wanted to, and it was still a necro. That is class identity to me. So I ran out of bone chips, so I couldn't summon undead pets anymore, and it caused me to look through my skills and see, well, which skills are synergizing. So I put together like a melee range necro where I was life tapping, I was sapping strength, I was doing life tap on hit, things like that. That class felt way better. And I feel like if each class had that type of synergy and you could play it in multiple different ways and still be an enchanter, that's identity. I was
Well,
filling a role and I gave it a B minus.
nice. There were some classes in EverQuest were more flexible than others. So the druid is the ultimate flex class, right? The druid is good at everything but not great at anything, which actually ended up being a problem because then nobody wanted him on raids. but but the necro is also another class that's extremely flexible. Those were the two most flexible classes in EverQuest. You could fill lots of different roles. You could fill DPS in a pinch. You could be crowd control. You could solo. You could do all the stuff. Uh, so that was
I,
just a weird dynamic of EverQuest where some classes were extremely focused on,
yeah.
and some classes were more like jack of all trades.
So some people are saying I'm biased towards Necro. I'm really not. I'm speaking to like the class itself. I don't want to devalue uh where devaluing is not due. My very first character ever in any EverQuest story, EQA, was a wizard, and that was my first level 50 character. So I know very well what a class identity is. I played Enchanter in EQOA, and that enchanter felt way more polished than this enchanter did.
Sparoh.
All right,
Sorry.
so my class stuff comes from playing a druid originally and this time a magician. And for both classes, I loved the variety of spells. The magician's direct damages felt impactful. Even in a group where playing with a wizard, it still felt like it had a good punch to it. The favorite part of the summoner is summoning items for the pet that you can summon armor and weapons and all sorts of cool stuff. So druid and magician both get A pluses for me. As Draq said, the druid could do anything. I could solo stuff, I could group and fill pretty much any role. So for me, that's the EverQuest experience is my druid and the magician, and I love them.
Yes. So for me, for class, I love EverQuest for the class identity. Everyone's kind of hit on most of the topics. I really feel like I think Therek maybe touched on it a little bit. The spells are really repetitive. Like every 8 levels or 10 levels or so, I get an upgraded fire spell. I don't get a new fire spell. I get the last fire spell with whatever 50 more damage on it, right? And that gets a little old.
Find all my
You
spells.
just need the cleric spell book.
I couldn't find all my spells.
Right. Well, you have to travel to the different towns as an enchanter. That's part of
It's
the
a quest.
Yeah, that's part of your deal. You got to
That's
go
not
adventure.
a quest. That's a
It is.
feature.
You have to go travel to get all your spells. But
It's
anyway,
a feature.
yeah, I don't like that piece of it. Also, I didn't play this, but the what they call the hybrid classes, the paladin and the necro, or not the shadow knight. I don't really like the mechanic of just stealing other classes' spells and then putting it in with like the ranger, the shadow knight, and the paladin, where the ranger steals druid spells, the paladin steals cleric spells. They kind of got away from that later on in expansions, but in classic EverQuest, that it was I felt like they should have had their own spells, which clearly Pantheon is going to do. So I'm excited about that. So for me, I give it an A minus only because of there's a lot of repeating spells over and over, but I really like the class identity and the group roles.
Which, once again, I have to say that at that time in 1999, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
That's
the
how they did
paladin
it.
was a fighter with some cleric spells.
Right.
So
Yeah, I just thought that was a bad choice.
I agree. The hybrid experience.
Also, if you played back in P99, the hybrids had a 20% experience penalty. So you, in a group, would get 20% less experience than everybody else in the group. So eventually, if you were grouping for a long enough period of time, your group would outlevel you, and you would no longer be able to group with them. So
What was that? Was that D&D campaign with Vecna in it? I forget, but don't all like non-human races have like a max level at like level what 10 or 12 or something?
That was very early editions.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of got that.
All right, we're gonna make up some time. PvP, Therek, go.
Oh man, I have nothing to say here. I've never PvP'd in EverQuest. I've dueled somebody once in 22 years. I don't know, man. I feel like other MMOs realized what a deficit EQ has when it comes to PvP. That's what led to Dark Age of Camelot. That's what led to some, the ones that came after it. I mean, I have nothing to say about PvP. I just NA for me. No score for PvP.
Nathan.
The only thing I have to say about PvP is one of my 1.5 MMO stories, which is, and this is even my story, is that Brad McQuaid at the time, somebody said, hey, MMOs need PvP. He's, and he was like, well, let's see what's going on. The only example we can really use right now was Ultima Online, which was an absolute nightmare. And he was like, we can't do that. We'll have to do something different. That's outrageous. And I will say this: I have a few people in my community who loved, what was it called, Zek?
Rallo Zek.
Rallo Zek. They love that server. They begged me to go play on P99 Red, which I don't know if I ever will. But I will say this about it: it does change the dynamic in old school, maybe not TLP, but in old school EverQuest on camping mobs. You can totally just duke it out for who gets it, right? So I'll say that about it. I think that would be, I've never done it. I think that would be interesting for those, like you're camping a mob all night long, and then somebody stronger than you comes along and is like, sorry, my camp now, buddy. You know,
I can't even do that. If I was there for 16 hours camping a mob and someone mowed me over, that'd be it. I'm done. Out.
But if it was real and we were these characters, it could happen.
Oh, brutal. So NA, or you got a grade, Nathan?
I put NA because I have no experience.
Stans.
NA.
Yep.
Crypt.
I didn't even know it was in there. I know it's in EQOA. Like, I can't believe you guys like hid this from me. I wanted to like kill each one.
Yeah, you can duel, and also
that was on purpose.
So there's this crappy mechanic where you can take a book, which no longer is on original EQ characters. On your original EQ character, you got a book as you created your character, and you turned it in to the Priest of Discord, and then that made your character a PvP character, which meant that no regular character, no non-PvP character could heal you, buff you, anything. Right? And then you were just fair game for anybody else that was PvP flagged.
Almost like a group of erudites waiting for you at
Oh yeah,
when you log into the zone.
As you.
Like
that was an accident. You guys just happened to show up.
Yeah,
that was an accident. I
Totally
changed my grade
coincidental.
to an F. I just had a bad memory.
There's also you can also duel people. So you can slash duel and then PvP.
I didn't know that, but I do think that if you're gonna have PvP, have it encapsulated in segmented areas and also through duel, because if you don't, you're gonna impact the overall player experience, and I don't think that's good for any game.
The PvP servers are notoriously trolly, like people camping your corpses. It's really, really.
I don't necessarily want straight PvP servers, because I don't want to have to choose between PvP and playing with my friends on RP and story.
Yeah, because we ain't gonna play with you on the PvP.
Yeah,
I'll do an all. No. I will
Yeah.
totally do an alt on. If we're talking about Pantheon, when they do have PvP servers, I will have an alt there.
You want to do it? That'll be our focus.
Oh, we got Simi Sosa, Red or Dead. Woo!
Red or Dead. There we go.
We got a
That's
PvP
group member number 3 right there. Go.
That is one of about 300 people who ever played PvP.
It's the only way.
Wow.
Did you give it a grade, or did you just do NA?
You guys kept it from me. I'm sad.
Oh,
I gave
sorry.
it an NA.
Sparoh.
Yeah, totally NA. Never done it.
So,
In EQ anyway.
So I have a good story which I will share. So when the day I was at the hour at which Rilo Zek launched, I was there. I logged on with a brand new level 1 character. And there were 250 people in Greater Fadark. And there was no mobs, because every time anything spawned, it was instantly dead. And so I did that for like 2 days, and then I was like, I'm never coming back to this. So, like, I'm not doing this. But yeah, PvP on EverQuest is always, sorry, Simi Sosa, it's always been a train wreck. It's not fun. So I actually did grade it, because I have had PvP experience. I did not like it. I don't think it's well done, so I gave it a D-. All right, graphics, Therek.
Well, I mean, it's a game from 1999. It looks like a game from 1999.
Yes,
there's not much going on here. And this is what keeps EverQuest stuck in the past, honestly. From an industry standpoint. I mean, yeah, there's some mechanics or whatever we've talked about, but you can't play this game and not feel like it's an ancient game just because of the way it looks. It's just the problem. I mean, some people love it, some people don't really care about that stuff, but I do. So the music, on the other hand, is a different story. I love that old music, and it's probably nostalgia. It's probably the old, uh, uh, style of music, but it's got a whimsy. It's got an adventurous feel to it. I think it makes you feel like the game is trying to like get you excited for an adventure. Too many games, MMOs have dark, serious music, and it's like drab and droning, and like stuff like Jeremy Soul's music, which I like, but it's overload sometimes. And I love EverQuest's sort of whimsy with its music, but it matches the aesthetic, which is this old style of graphics, which isn't acceptable anymore, and you really can't have it. It's an F.
Oh, I did
What?
not see
That
that coming.
surprises me.
didn't
I
either,
did not
geez.
see that coming.
Yeah, I'm not a graphics snob. I don't need Elden Ring graphics. I don't need whatever the most modern thing is, but it's got to look better than this.
Nathan, bring us
Okay,
back up.
well,
Bring us back up.
me and Therek have been pretty neck and neck on scores here. This is where we slide our separate ways because, first of all, immersive sounds, man. The background music, not the music, I'm sorry, but just the sound effects of like going to a deep forest and all the kind of like almost alien sounds you hear in the background. I just love it. It makes my mouth water. I love all the old music. So music, if it was just music, its own separate category, I'd probably give it like a AAA plus. I love it. It's nostalgic too, and I know that's part of it. Love it. Graphics, they're not good, right? They're not good, but I like them. They feel good for me. It's kind of like, I can only think of inappropriate things, so I don't know how to say it. It's just it's so nostalgic and it feels right and it feels like returning home. I did play with you guys with the newer model. I don't know how long we're going to call it models, right? I don't know how long we're going to do that, but I
The
guess forever.
2004 models. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I did play with those models because on P99 I'm playing with classic models. And the animations on those are so terrible.
If the graphics
It
are older
ruins
than
it.
your children.
Yeah, seriously, that's it.
So the Lucla models, so I like it though. It feels good to me, especially when I'm playing on the classic graphics. I really actually just enjoy everything about it, and I can see like for the time because you got to remember what was the 3D games back then. We had Tomb Raider, we had Mario 64, we had Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which was like blowing everybody's mind. It was like
Crash
The Witcher 3 of its time. You know what I mean? Like just breakneck crazy graphics, and then we had one that was online with like thousands of people, and it looked better than most 3D games at the time. And it ran well, that's not I can't say it ran better back then, it didn't, but that was not because of the game engine. But so I can look at it and I can put myself back in time and be like, this looks so crazy. Like what good texture work, what good detail they put. The texture work's crazy, for that time. So
sometimes a little too crazy, like the sewer walls with the drips of water that go up.
yeah, which is just like a GIF or something. But yeah, I appreciate it so much for just being old. So I gave it an A.
Oh, an
Wow.
A.
I like
Wow.
it. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good.
I get it.
Stans, don't be gentle.
Nostalgia carrying that grade.
Yeah. Draq, does it mess you up if Crypt gets a chance to go ahead of me in case?
No, go ahead. Crypt, go.
All right. Just speaking to what Nathan's talking about in the time, like I can see how these graphics would be great, right? Because I remember the very exact moment that I ran from the Urdite City in EQOA to Kinos and thinking, wow. Look at these graphics, the hills, the trees, and just the thought that there's other people running around that I could interact with. And it felt great. Though I don't have that experience with EQ when it came out, I can understand that. Um, so with that in mind, I would probably give the graphics a B, but I broke up this category a little bit because this is graphics and sound. So I have to speak to the sound because I'm a sound person. Thought the music was very nice. I liked it, the ambience, it fit, and it felt good to listen to it. The combat sound, absolute garbage. I'm sorry.
It's a
The
little
rest of
rough.
the sound, B. Graphics by themselves, standalone. I'm a lot more generous than what Therek was saying. I gave it a C. So I kind of have a split grade there. So we could go a B minus. We'll go C overall.
You're
Yeah,
really struggling on this grade there, Crypt.
I
Mhm.
am. We'll go C overall.
All right, stands.
All right, so once again, I have no nostalgia for, oh, back in the day, this was amazing. These are blocky, low poly, um, really, really ugly or monochromatic color palettes. Like there wasn't even a whole lot of variation of like, hey, we're going to start mixing up some color palettes in this area very much. It was large swaths of the same color and very limited perspective camera. Like, man, you could not pull that thing back very far. And, that in some indoor areas, nausea's fun. That I can take or leave to a large extent. It dinged it, but like Crypt was saying, I wouldn't necessarily have actually tanked it for that. What tanked it for me was the sound, because I also am a big fan of good sound. And I am sorry, but other than some pieces of music, which don't always fire off in the correct order or routinely or regularly, there are some good pieces of music. You can't actually always count on them or trust them to be there and firing off regularly. The sound is low bit rate, terribly compressed, terribly balanced, jarring, and repetitive. It's fucking awful. D minus. The only thing that picked it up was there are some really interesting models of things, but boy, you saw them a lot.
Wow, I thought the F bomb was going to get the F grade, but apparently only a D minus.
No, Therek, that's why when you gave this one an F, I was I
Stunned.
graded something higher than Therek.
How do you like that?
Can I change my grade to D plus because I totally forgot to factor in that stupid fucking pool of water I got stuck in for an hour and a half? Can we
I
please
saved
change
you.
it to a D minus?
Oh my goodness.
And Sparoh did save me.
Yeah.
All right, Sparoh.
All right. I agree with Nathan that the music, and maybe it is nostalgia, but it does bring me back and get me excited when I hear it. So that bumps the grade up a bit for me. I do really like the ambient sounds. I can't describe it why, but like when you're out in the forest and you hear those really weird bird calls and things, I find it really creepy and suspenseful, so I do like it. Where it loses grades, though, is, as Stan said, it's very intermittent. You don't know when you could be running, hearing nothing, and all of a sudden you crest a hill and these noises start. The combat sound, agree with Stan's, it's super repetitive, and I always turn it off because it's horrible. The only thing I like about combat sounds is the crunch, like when you get hit, and it terrifies me every time I hear my poor little casters getting crunched.
It is a good noise. I can agree with
It
that.
is, yeah. Graphically, I mean, I think part of it, I'm just used to it, maybe. I think it's okay. I'm not in love with the graphics. I don't hate the graphics. So it's getting a mid grade for me. I'm giving it a C, and hopefully Bounty doesn't ban me from the group.
Oh.
No, he'll understand that.
I think your monitor's about to go out again, Sparoh.
Didn't Bounty
I
leave to
don't-
go kill stands a second ago anyway?
I thought that's what we saw him walking past the camera. I figured that's what it was. It was my first F, got me the Bounty Assassin Squad.
Yeah, yeah.
I think everybody's pretty much said everything there is to say. I like the sound. The graphics are super old and have not been updated. Unlike WoW, who has updated their graphics as it's went along. EQ has not, and so yeah,
They could have, but they
could
could have.
they did not. So I give it a B plus. I'm probably a little high, but I don't care.
You're high, or the grade's high.
It's like I'm a little high on this score.
I'm probably a little high here, but
You know. All right.
I do gotta say though, real quick, I do believe that they would have continued upgrading EverQuest if it wasn't for the absolute nightmare of the split in community after the Lukla models.
Yeah.
I think after that they were like, you know what, just screw it. Like, we can't make them happy. Just move forward. We'll make zones look better. Because if you play a zone today that they made like in the last expansion, kind of impressive to be running on that engine. I mean, it really is.
I don't want a developer to quit because people get a little antsy or upset.
Yeah,
There's not many of them left to quit.
Yeah, it's now just a couple of guys raking in the money every month. That's what you got left. All right, monetization and cash up.
So
Therek.
here's I can sum it up almost in one line. When we were playing together, the first time I saw somebody with a really cool piece of armor on, that I'm like, what's that? I don't recognize that from back in the day. And I realized that it was a cash up thing. And then I started to, that's all I could see after that. And I realized how item prestige has been watered down so badly in EverQuest compared to what it once was. It's a crying shame. I mean, that was EQ's thing was item prestige, and it's still there. I know that some items are still really sought after, and people see you with something and it's still okay, but the cash shop stuff looks way better. Like, I don't think anybody can argue with that. On the bright side, the game charges a sub. People are still playing the hell out of this game, paying the sub. You can make a sub work. It's complicated. It's going to take some nuance, but it can be done. So, down with cash shops, up with subs, and I gave it a B.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. If you have a cash shop, I'm sorry, but that's not good. I feel like there's so many other avenues you could take for monetization that aren't cash shop. And, here's the other thing. If that's what allows EverQuest to still have an official server, then okay, I'm okay with it, right? I still don't like it, but I'd rather that be the way it is as opposed to Vanguard, which has no official server. I would take a cash shop for Vanguard to come out tomorrow, right? Hands down, would do things I can't talk about that are inappropriate to make that happen, right? So I'm just saying, so I can't really go too hard on me. It's a really old game. It's still available. We can still play and enjoy it. They still do TLPs. Do new expansion every freaking month, so I mean, I said every month. I meant every year. That'd be ridiculous. But so I mean, the cash shop, I believe, is funding it, and it doesn't bother. It does bother me that there's people running around looking all fancy, but not really, because as soon as you look at it, it came from the cash shops. You're just kind of like, worthless. I'm more proud of my, my gear that I've went out and found that in the world than I would be of cash shop gear. On the other hand, I do feel like that they could be much dirtier with their cash shop. I feel like it's fairly tame. There's HP, there's potions to make you XP faster, which I've used quite often. You get points, so you don't even have to spend your real money. It's not that bad. And let's not forget that this was EverQuest was one of the first transitions to free to play, to have to add a cash shop. And they were winning between EverQuest and EverQuest 2 and the the benefits you get for just the sub and DC and whatever else. They won a bunch of awards like back to back, like best value. It was like year after year after year after year they were winning. So I feel like it's there, so it gets a C. I don't feel like it's that ugly, to be honest.
Dance?
So yeah, it is a free-to-play game, but it's not free to play on the server we were playing on. So we had to have a sub to play on it. There is there's an amount of the currency that you get for the sub, like Nathan was saying. However, there are two vast catches to that. One is that Daybreak's model is you have to claim your currency every month, which it makes you open up the cash shop to claim it. Second is compared to a lot of other games that do a similar thing, which is if you sub, one of the benefits is you get some store currency to spend. I was doing a quick bit of napkin math in comparison to other games I play that have similar models. Daybreak gives you by far the least amount of cash shop currency value for your sub. They give you a very small dollar amount compared to other games that do similar. So they give you some, but not a whole lot. And aside from a few items, there's some things in the cash shop that have an increment that fits with the amount of money with the amount of cash shop currency you get in packs or in your sub. For the most part, their entire cash shop is priced to be off axis to encourage you to either buy more or do something else along those lines. Nothing is priced to be non-predatory for the most part. So it feels a little slimy in that for a game this old. I gave it a D, mostly just because of annoyance, to be honest. The limited amount of currency they give compared to other similar models, the pricing model they use, and you have to log in every month in a limited window to claim your currency.
That is annoying, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
You know why they do it.
Yeah,
They
because
do it.
You won't claim it.
you won't
they
claim
do
it,
it-
you won't get the free. Because
they-
I
they-
have so much. Because I keep it active just to support it. But a lot of times it'll be
Yep.
have to
And it's twofold. Not only do you have to, are they hoping you'll forget, but when you do log in and claim it from the cash shop, you have to open the cash shop, and the first thing that happens when you click the claim currency button is you get a pop-up saying, hey, here's some specials.
Yeah.
Here's some extra
Mhm.
specials. Do you want to spend some of this currency? Huh?
And it's
Huh?
like
That
all that they give you.
option.
You ever notice that? It'll be like, what do you get? 500, I think, and it'll be like, oh, but we have this one for $4.99 that comes with these things that you probably likely need at your level, etc.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, Crypt.
Cash App didn't bug me as much. I just chose not to interact with it outside of like, getting some leveling potions. Um, Ideally for me, I don't want any cash shop in any MMO that I play, but I can tolerate it if it's, minimal, like some cosmetics, emotes, some leveling potions. But further down the line, like in age, like EQ is for like the leveling potions. Ideally for me, I want an MMO that's you're gonna get items from the game. You get your mounts from the game, you get your emotes from the game, your cosmetics from the game, everything from the game. Um, I gave it a B just because I didn't use it that much and it wasn't that bad. I've seen some games that are really bad. Lost Ark had it really bad.
Lost Ark
Oh,
was the
there's way
worst.
worse. No doubt about
Yeah.
it. There's way worse than this, 100%.
Yeah,
Sparoh.
you
Oh,
got
sorry.
MMO mathematicians out there that will go through the cash shop, analyze every currency,
Yeah.
and figure out how to make this currency fenced in the
Yeah.
cash shop to make
Oh,
another currency so you
this
can
is-
buy something out of the cash shop.
This is the money ball of MMOs. And they've got it down to a science, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sparoh.
All right, so I was happy to use a cash shop, which I hate cash shops, but I was happy to use the potions to get through the lower levels. So I used some of my little coins, got myself some XP pots, and off I went. I like the sub model. I hope the games that are coming up that we all like to follow also uses a sub model. I don't like that it has even a cash shop as an option, even though I did use it for the XP potions, but kind of like was mentioned, it is such an old game. I've been through the content. I just wanted to get through the content. So I gave it a C, mid-grade. It's not in your face all the time, so it's not an F for me, but it's still there, so it's annoying.
Yeah, those expectations did make a big difference.
Oh yeah.
So there are 4 different things that I like to talk about when we talk about EQ and monetization. So number 1, you have the XP pots. Those are, I don't like games with XP pots, right? I feel it's icky and yucky. We're skipping content, and I know we used them, but ours I think is a different situation, and I don't want to base my MMO around what the MMO 101 does, right?
Well, there was no quest, so we needed the XP pots.
2, did anybody talk about Chrono? I don't think anybody said anything about
Nope.
Chrono. So you
Just
can
chat, yeah.
you get gold, and then you can then sell that to other people for a sub fee. What this has turned into is a very, very, very predatory market in EverQuest, where people now create characters that they never intend to play on TLPs because they know how to get gold fast and then sell it to new players. And then so they basically have they hundreds and thousands of chrono that they then sell online to other people. And so
Real money.
It's real money, and it's really icky and really awful. And
what's the first thing people say now, Draq? When you get an item that can be sold, obviously, what do they say? How they value it?
Right, everything's valued in chrono. Absolutely,
Exactly.
Yep.
Nobody talks about
1 KR, 1 KR, 5 KR, whatever. Pegasus Cloak, 2 KR, right? Yeah, and so platinum in-game gold, you have to get thousands and thousands and thousands of it to actually get chrono, and the price is always going up.
Now, real quick though, I would like to say that I've been playing EverQuest for the past several years, came back and started playing and enjoying it with lots of people and doing a lot of things in EverQuest. I've never owned a chrono.
Yeah,
Not even one. I just
I don't
avoid
even
it.
know how to do it.
I think it's stupid and annoying, and I just don't do it.
Right, but if you are going to raid,
Yes.
you have to basically engage in it. There's no way around it. You have to. And
That's
so it gets pretty icky at the end game. Also, another icky thing that they just recently added, was it last year or 2 years ago? It's called perks. And there's 3 of them. One is an XP bonus. One is a you don't lose a level when you die, and the other one is a crafting thing, I think.
Excuse me, I need to go take a shower. I feel dirty now.
I forgot about this.
I didn't mention them, but that was one of the things I factored into my grading
Yep.
as well.
And
Yes.
they are awful, and I don't understand other than just pure greed while they added them in. I think it was a mistake and awful. Because one of the perks is the no dying. So now what people do is they zerg mobs at the zone line to kill them, and then they can't lose a level. So there's no it removes even further the risk of dying. So all that being said, it isn't as predatory as most other MMOs, as everyone else has said. So I gave it a B minus, but it can be done way better. And so, oops, I just changed Sparoh's grade. What was Sparoh's grade? C.
C.
Perfect. Mine is a B minus. So, Therek, lore. The lore master, grading the lore.
Well, you know what? This is an interesting conversation because EverQuest is so different in terms of how it expresses itself when it comes to lore, how it tells you the story of its world. It's so unusual these days. It's defined by so much environmental stuff. It's defined by the mobs. It's defined by the factions and the races and how they interact and what the relationships are. I mean, when I ran to Lava Storm Draq and I was like, oh, where can I get a bind? And you're like, oh, over in Neriak, except the Dark Elves hate you. I'm like, well, that's the lore. I just learned something, like I learned the lore from an in-game thing. And I love that stuff. That's how it should be. There's deeper stuff. If you want to look for it, it's there. You can read the quest text, whatever quests there are. You can talk to the, people in the towns, whatever. It's done in such a different way, but it's the enjoyable part for me is the environmental stuff. When we were in Unrest and we were seeing, or in Kazakh, in Sol B, and we saw those like scrawlings on the wall, right? The drawings of the kobold, as Draq says.
No, please don't.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Kobolds.
I changed the location 3 times just to get to that joke.
I'm now converting Therek. He's part of Team Kobold.
Team Kobold, yes. So I really like that, and I love that it's layered into the game like that. I saw something in the game, and I never looked at it for more than a second, but they have like storylines or stories or whatever it's called, where there was some other thing that's like, it felt really out of place for EverQuest. And I didn't really like. I should look into it a little more, but don't give us walls of text and a billion books to read. It's just people aren't going to do that stuff. You need to make it more immersive. You need to make it more part of the experience, and not these endless dialogue chains and things that go on forever. Some people are going to be into that, most aren't. I was immersed in the lore of the world by killing mobs and hanging out with you guys. That was the lore for me, and I like I said, there were good examples of it all over the place. I give it a B+. I think Pantheon is, again, at a place where they can take this to the next level and really go further with this.
Nathan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like it's a game where it does have a lot of lore, and there is story and history in each little place and all these kind of things. It is a kind of game where you could play the game and not even know any of that, But I guarantee you that you'll at least wonder, right? You'll be like, I wonder how this came to be, or what have you. And I feel like it's this was a very good example of the time where if you even was playing an RPG of any sort on the PC at that time, you was a real nerd, right? Like, you wasn't half-baked or like, oh yeah, I read some comics, so I guess I'm a nerd. Like, you was a real nerd, because you had to go out and spend, at that time in the late 90s, a ton of money to even have a PC that would run it. To install it, to have internet, just to even have internet in 1999, honestly, in most areas was a crazy thing. That
minimum wage
in
in
99. Minimum wage was probably like $3.40. We were paying 15 of that. Do the math: 5 hours of work.
I'm not sure that's the exact math.
It wasn't far though. It wasn't far. $5.15. There you go. So you had to work after tax probably 4 or 5 hours just to pay for your freaking EverQuest monthly fee, and then you tack on, I don't remember what graphics card cost back then, but I just remember it was a lot for me back then. So you was a real nerd. You were like dedicating everything you had to do this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the lore falls into that too, because like they were just kind of like, hey, we're not going to throw it in your face. You're a nerd. Figure it out. Like, the hints are here. You'll either dig if you want it, or you won't know, and it'll be mysterious, or another player's going to tell you, right? And I feel like the world is the lore, and the lore is the world, and I love it.
Yes.
So I give it an A.
Nice.
Dance.
All right, do we hear the angry typing yet? I'm sure that there is a lot of lore that we largely went straight past because we went from killbox to killbox. The most actual direct lore we got in a game came from Draq telling us the story of the Crushbone Orcs and some of what had gone on with them and why they were such a big deal. Other than that, primarily we got little NPC barks and things like that. And honestly, for a game where the primary gameplay loop was what it is, I was largely okay with that. I gave it a C. It was not particularly upfront or well presented in a lot of ways. A lot of ways that I would normally want to find out about the world as playing somebody new to the world. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go talk to a bunch of people in town. People in town didn't tell me shit about where I was or what was going on. They did nothing to place me in the world. But you can tell that there's a layer under there, probably several hundred hours deep. And the little hints of it we got were enough to make me not just absolutely tank this, because there were hints and potential shown in the time we played and what we did.
I
Sparoh.
love that. I love that.
Oh,
You got
I'm
that
sorry.
from Draq.
Cryptfox.
I was just gonna say 20 years and Draq finally learned the lore of something. We got
Hey, man.
20 years is all
That's
it
how
takes.
long it takes. 20 years into Pantheon, I'll be like, hey, I got a lore nugget.
That's right. Sorry, I interrupted.
Are you done? Are you done, Stans? It's
Yep.
Okay, correct. Go.
Yeah, so lore and immersion, I had it a split score. I just gave it a overall C minus. I don't know about like how to split it up really now. Uh lore wise, I agree with both Nathan and Therek. Like I never want to see a wall of text. I never want to have to do an insurmountable amount of reading. I want to be able to get immersed by reading maybe 4 sentences from the NPC giving me the quest and then going out and experiencing things like maybe there's a marker on my map saying that there's a bind point. Well, I can't get to that bind point because there's a fort that's encapsulating it that has people there that hate me. Oh, so now I know. Okay, I can't go there. Why? Well, I'm playing a dark mirror, and these people might be orcs. Okay, so I know orcs hate me as a dark mirror. So that's delivering, the lore another way, and it pulls you into the world a little bit more because you're not accepted everywhere. And what we get in a lot of MMOs now is that your character is accepted everywhere. So uh, yeah, C minus on that. I want to get my lore and immersion from playing the game, not necessarily walls of text.
Sparoh.
Right. I do like that if the lore is there, there are places to find it, whether it's some of the NPCs in town, probably not all of them, as Stan said. Um, I agree with Therek. There's a lot of environmental storytelling going on, whether that be with factions or the writings on the wall or things like that. So I never got fully into the lore, so I'd have to agree that it is not in your face. If you don't want to read the walls of text or all the stories, you're not going to get a lot of lore except by somebody like Draq telling you about the lore. But as far as immersion going, when you get your groove on with your group and EverQuest, and the immersion is totally there. That sense of danger, that it's plentiful. The immersion. It's just a matter of being able to find those groups and find the place that you can get into that groove. But when it happens, I find I get fully immersed into the game. So I'm going with a B plus.
Yes. So for me, lore and immersion, I'm much higher on the immersion than I am the lore, but that's just me in general. But I feel like the game has a lot of, maybe not lore so much, because I feel like they feel like originally when they designed this game, they kind of threw lots of stuff together, right? But there's lots of great stories. The stories of the dragons and the stories of the sleeper and awaking the sleeper. And there's lots of, like, there's even some Eve Online moments, right? Where like there's stories that happened in EQ history that we know. Like we know the first time the sleeper was awoken, that it was they death rushed this thing for 8 hours straight, right? And the EQ devs weren't even expecting them to kill it. It wasn't supposed to be killable, so there was no loot on it. But then they crashed the server, so they couldn't kill it, and then they had to come back up, and then they had to make it killable, and then they killed it, and there was nothing on it. Like, and there's all kinds of stories like that, right? And so and that's how I learn like the lore and the stories the best, is when I hear stories of people's adventures, not like, as everybody else has said, walls of text. Um, and the immersion of the game, I really get immersed in it. Uh, but you have to hunt for it. It's not on the top. I think they could do better. I think Pantheon has better plans So I gave it a B. So, addictability / fun.
Well,
Therek.
it all boils down to the fact that it's 20 plus years and people are still playing this freaking game
With the bad graphics.
with all of its warts and all of its issues and all the daybreak nonsense and gross chrono and all that stuff. People are still playing it. It's simple, it's deep, it provides a meaningful experience, and that is what people are interested in. Addictability is a word that I think we were talking about the cash ops earlier, and it's just been moneyballed to death. What's the most addictive thing? And WoW did a lot of stuff that I think really science the hell out of addiction and MMO addiction, and that's one of the reasons they're what they are. But EverQuest is the original thing. I mean, people are still playing it. They love it. It's fun, and enough said. It gets an A. It's an easy A.
Easy A.
Yep.
Oop, that was not the right person. Nathan.
Yeah, so EverQuest is EverQuest, man. It's it is addictive. It has a very addictive charm to it. It's not. It would be harder for you not to get addicted to it than it would be for you to than is to just slide in and you just immediately start feeling like you want to get back in, you want to see something, you want to try something, or you want to just play more and be there more, because it's a place. Norrath is a real place, and it's in most ways it's more interesting than the real world, so it's easy to get addicted. Now, what I will say though is overall, what I learned from this experience was that I love EverQuest with a group. I hate EverQuest by myself. I really actually hate it by myself. And I didn't know that until we did this, and there was quotas, and I have to hit this level, and I was playing at weird wonky hours because that was when I could, and I would look. Hey man, that night crowd in EverQuest is a different crowd than the day crowd. The night crowd is like everybody's logging off all the time. And people are I literally had somebody join my group, play for 5 minutes with us. Nothing was bad. Everything was going good. And then they were just like, hey, I got to go. They left the group, which is fine. They're like, I got to go to bed. And then 5 minutes later, I see the same person try to run by me real quick with another group. And it's like, seriously? You could have just said, I've got offered another group with more people or whatever. I don't know. I loathe EverQuest as a solo player. I will never play it solo ever in my life. But playing with a group, super awesome. Best game to do that in my opinion, to date that's out right now. So I gave it a C.
Dance.
So one of the things I look at when I look at fun in an MMO is how engaging is the core gameplay loop. And in EverQuest, that is the combat. That is the group combat, straight up. So that was the biggest thing I based this on and looked at the factors, because the fun is in the group gameplay, engaging mobs. EverQuest has a very throwback approach to challenge. It's a very simplistic implementation of the challenge design, which is bad guy numbers big, good guy numbers small. Make many good guys in group with you, stack numbers right, and manage the number of bad guys with big numbers that you're introducing into the mix. It's a really straightforward approach that is challenging, but not necessarily complex or even demanding a lot of the time. Have you mathed things right, and did you not get a bad pop? If people are doing their job, you pretty much, your setup is good. It is a very distinct approach to making challenge in your core gameplay loop. I compare that to something like, and we were talking pre-show. I said I was going to bring up the Secret World. I look at
Drink. Everybody drink.
Everybody drink. Everybody drinks. Stans mentioned the Secret World. I look at some of the ways that challenge has been implemented in other games. There is nothing in EverQuest that is like floor dancing in Nightmare Mode Darkness War. when you're fighting the mind and match. That is challenging and difficult and fucking exhilarating. Everquest is the exact diametric opposite to that. It is set up your numbers and stack your stuff right and perform your core function. That's where the challenge lies. And this is going to surprise a lot of people. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that in the right game is a very good design. I don't think every game should be like that. There should be games that are more engaging in their challenge, but in EverQuest, it's a C.
Tans, you are a roller coaster, man.
Yeah,
so
that,
it's
that
like-
was it.
I
That was it.
downhill. I'm bracing myself, and it's like
No,
The brakes
the
are
setup.
gone. The brakes are gone.
Cryptfox. I'm not
Pull
sure
the e-brake.
my emotions cannot take it anymore.
Nathan, did you read my scorecard? Because you read my exact comments.
nice.
But overall, I give it a C on addictability and fun. When I'm looking at a game that I want to play, I look at the things that I don't like as much as I look at the things that I do like. I absolutely despise the city design. I got lost in the High Elf City for 2 hours. I got lost in Nuriak for 2.5 hours. I got stuck in a pool of water for an hour and a half.
Dude, you're supposed to re-roll when that happens.
Yeah,
so true.
I died pre-res level for stands, and I had to run back several times. I was like, all right, that I can deal with. This other shit. This game's been out for 23 fucking years. You need to fix your city. You need to at least, at a minimum, fix that pool of water so I can walk out of that bitch.
I gotta mention that they tried that one time. They did fix a city.
Fix
Free
the city.
port?
It didn't.
Yeah,
it
not
didn't,
so good.
it didn't turn out so well. It was not a good time.
Predictability? No, sorry. I think it's addictive because of the social impact of what the core function of the game does, which is grouping, getting together with people that you have fun with. That part is addictable, but that part can be transposed into any game if they emphasize that part of the game. So I kind of like disassociate that a little bit because the sociability is talking, chatting, shooting shit. I'm not gonna hear an NPC talking about, what they did last weekend. Okay. So yeah, it's a C for me.
Sparoh.
So for EverQuest, whenever I have friends or guildmates or streamers or anyone start either playing or talking about or inviting me to play EverQuest, it never fails to pull me in. I always love to play EQ, especially with a static group, which is, I think, most of our negative things about it is that you have to have that group. But to me, as soon as I hear people talking about it, I want to play it. As soon as I see people playing it, I want to play it. Grinding levels, getting spells is addictive to me. The leveling process, I've never been an end game player with rating and things like that, but I love making alts. I love trying all the classes, and the nostalgia and the fun gameplay for me, it gets an A+.
Nice.
Nice. So for me, I think you all know what this grade is going to be.
You still play.
Do you play any other games?
I'm still playing once a week. I have rated hardcore. I've done all the things. I played back in '99. I play currently. I love this game. I'm full on addicted. Yeah, there's just no getting around it. I really enjoy the game. I really enjoy it for its social aspects, and I like some of the features that you guys complain about. I like the fact that you are forced to group. I like that it because for me, I know that, and sometimes in my own life, if I'm not forced to be with other people, then I won't do it. And then I would be irritated because I'm missing out on a great experience grouping with people. And I know that some of this is probably tied into the fact that, like, as a young man, this was where I learned how to be social. Like, I wasn't good at social interaction in the world. I hopped onto EverQuest, and then somehow through the magic of a computer and an online MMO, I was able to learn that, and then I actually transferred that into a real life skill. And so some of that, I'm sure, is clouding my judgment, but I got to give it an A+.
Yeah.
And I
Can we-
just
can
wanna,
we
I
just
just wanna
define-
point out too, real quick, that it was the situation for me of like I
Sacred
love
just
that
said, "You're good at
Oh,
social interactions now."
oh.
Wow. He's
Burn.
been lurking all night just for that.
Sacred, waiting for it, waiting for it.
Savage.
I just want to say that it was the timeline and quota that made the stress of like I can't solo and I don't have time to do this to get there. If normally when you play EverQuest, there is no quota or time frame. Like by Tuesday, you have to be this, or you're gonna let the group down, right? That made this horrible concoction of hatred for me and soloing. No, I totally agree with you that I think it
Draq
should
nearly
be.
ruined it for you.
Yes. I never had no idea. I've never had a quota in EverQuest, right? Having a quota in EverQuest freaking sucks. It's bad. And I would say same will be true for Pantheon. I don't think I'll want a quota for Pantheon. Not gonna lie. That's not the kind of game I want to play like that. I don't want to play EverQuest like that. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Can we define what an EQ feature is for the people who don't know what that
I don't
is?
think we have time for that.
Anything that the players have figured out how to deal with, but technically is not intentionally designed to be that way. That is a feature in EverQuest.
Yes. So let's move on. Final grade. Not now, for those of you that don't know, the final grade is not an average of the grades. It is just the overall grade that each person gives the game. Sometimes the sum of the parts are more than what the game is. Sometimes the sum of the parts are less than what the game is, in our own opinions. Therek.
Yeah, I just want to preface this by saying I was nervous to go back to EverQuest after 20 years of not playing it, worrying that my memories would be tarnished, ruined, and I would realize that it was not the game I thought it was. That didn't happen. I loved it. I had so much fun with you guys. I didn't want to stop playing. I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna level up a character on Thornblade and hang out with you guys because it's so much fun. It's an A. It's an easy A again, and I mean it's EverQuest, right? It's the OG. So love it.
Nathan.
Yeah, love it. EverQuest is a great, phenomenal game. Would get a triple A if we were 22 years ago. Today, it's the warts have begun to show their true faces, and they're ugly sometimes, and they're not as easily forgivable as they were back then. I understand them, and I even sometimes enjoy some of the warts of EverQuest, but that's because of nostalgia, and I'm not dumb enough to think it's not. But I love it. I think EverQuest is just one of a kind. I think it's always going to hold a special place for everybody, and we're all going to love it forever. And even if we don't play it anymore after Pantheon comes out, we'll always hold a dear place in our hearts. And so I give it an A-.
Have a funeral.
Womp
Oh, yep.
Well, it's gonna be a sad day when the Monday Night EQ crew, like the week before launch, and we're like retiring our EQ characters. That's gonna be a moment.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys gonna have another Naked Gnome run or a Ranger Gate to wrap it all up?
Probably stands.
All right, so Bounty, start typing. A lot of you guys know I am a guitar nerd to some degree or another. Some people would say way the hell too much of one. This is a Fender Telecaster. It's a slightly fancier version of what the original Telecaster was, but it is at its core one of the earliest production solid body guitars that codified how you could do it cheaply and mass produce them. It is a solid plank of wood bolted to another solid plank of wood with the most basic, barely functional electronics that you could shove into it to make it actually work. Mine is slightly fancier because this is just the one I had lying around, but you get the picture. This is a musical instrument as if it was made on an automobile manufacturing line. And it laid the groundwork for a lot of what came afterwards, but these things were objectively bare bones simple, barely functional compared to stuff at the time. And they're fucking magical. The sum of something, the sum of the parts, the whole can absolutely be greater than the sum of the parts if everything comes together right and correctly. EQ as a whole for me is a B-. There's a ton of stuff I didn't like. And I am not going back anytime soon. Part of that is Daybreak, but that's neither here nor there. But the sum that is EQ as a whole is way better than the things I dislike about the game. And Bounty, I know you were waiting for that one, buddy. I'm sorry. But
Wow.
EverQuest is a Telecaster.
Well done.
EverQuest is a Telecaster. There it is.
I like it.
Well
I like
done.
it.
Drop the mic.
I'll take that. Yeah.
All right, Crypt, what props do you have?
Crips, you at least brought snacks.
All
right?
I know is what I've learned from this stream is I'm never following stands on any panel ever.
Yeah. That's a tough road to hoe, man.
I forgot what I was gonna fucking say. EQ is a good game. It's a good game. It was better when it was closer to its release. I feel if I'm using EQOA as any sort of like gauge for how EverQuest was in its heyday, like way back when it was first released and years after that, not after they've implemented like the cash shops and nerfing quests and all that. Like you got it at its organic state. EverQuest is a great game. I don't think I'm gonna be addicted to it, but I will still play it. I have a character on Thornblade, and I think the reason that I will continue to play it is because of the people I get to play it with. And for the desired effect of EverQuest and grouping with people, it's doing its job. So I gave it a B minus.
All right, Sparoh.
All right. So I love playing it. I love playing it in a group with friends, especially a static group. It's getting an A from me. I don't think I've ever logged into it, played it, and thought this is a horrible game. I'm never playing again. It always brings me back, and I love playing with friends. I also made a character on Thornblade, so hopefully there'll be some grouping going on and some more EverQuest goodness. And I just want to say to Crypt, he's made the character on Thornblade but saying I can quit anytime. I'm not addicted.
Are you calling
but
me
I
an
made
addict
another
right now?
character.
Are you calling me an addict right now?
Uh-huh.
Sparrow?
I'm not addicted, but I did make another character on another server to play with you guys.
Yeah.
That's how it starts. That's
Right
how
now.
it starts.
He made it
Uninstall.
all while we were testing his other.
That's right.
I'm
He
just
did
saying.
Necro. He made another one.
That's
You
called
remember
out
this
right
moment for the
there.
rest of your life, Crypt.
So it's getting an A from me.
Nice. Obviously, I'm an A plus. Still playing. Some of the other people have mentioned we do have a regular group that is on the Thornblade server. So if you do want to play on live, you can definitely join us there. Daimlos and Random Rob and Marks kind of lead that crowd. They play way more than I do. I'm only once a week. But if you want to get into that crew, they are always. Random Rob has like 8 max level characters at this point. He's got 8 level 70s, I think. So they are always leveling up alts, and they have boxes they're leveling up, and so you can easily slide in with them and get groups and level with them if you're interested in joining us. Also, if you're interested in a more hardcore experience, you can join. There's a P99 guild, right, with Nathan and Sparoh, and it's Renfell.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, Renfell.
Renfell, and he's got a guild over there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you can hop on P99. You can be part of the Renfell's guild. You can hang out with Sparoh and Nathan over there if that's more your cup of tea.
If you like, let me put it this way: if you like punishment,
Yes.
that is also fun because it's so punishing that you're scared for your life.
Oh,
No maps. No
P99.
maps.
Yikes.
No maps, getting lost.
If you
you
like
know.
banging your head against the wall, that P99 may be
Sure.
for you.
I'll tell you what, Nathan. If you get me on P99, which I'm okay with, if my character dies, I'm starting a new character.
Hardcore
You're
P99.
gonna play. You're gonna play. What do they call Iron Man mode?
Oh, hardcore.
P99.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
I'm
mode.
not doing a corpse run. If I die, he's dead.
Just put some gear in the bank, man. Don't do
Jeez.
the corpse run.
Oh, you guys. All right.
All-
Hey,
all crafted.
you know what? We made it out in 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm super proud of ourselves. I was a little concerned as we were 30 minutes in that we weren't gonna make it. This was gonna be the first 4-hour MMO 101.
For this particular game, that was the core topic.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
the thing.
Yeah,
And it's appropriate for EverQuest. EverQuest
Wait.
takes time.
You know what else is appropriate for EverQuest? Look at our first row of scores in our final grade. And group
It's
is
close, right?
EverQuest.
It's
That's
very
true.
true.
That's why it's still around 22 years
Yep.
later.